In Module 3, Lesson 4, we're going to look at the opposite of a number. In the classroom, we would have a physical number line for us to explore, walking the number line. You certainly are welcome to do that on your own at home or draw one. Each integer has an opposite, which we denote as negative a representing any number. Negative a and a are opposites if they are on opposite sides of 0 and the same distance from 0 on the number line. Please notice those two qualities. They are on opposite sides of 0 and the same distance from 0 on the number line. Now, on the number line, they've asked us to locate the number 8 and its opposite on the number line and explain how they are related to 0. And so our number 8 and its opposite would be 8 units away from 0 on the opposite side of 0. They are related to 0 because they are the same distance away from 0. And if we combine them, we would get 0. Then we could locate the opposites of these other numbers on the number line. The opposite of 9 would be negative 9, which of course would be about right here if we extended our number line. The opposite of negative 2 is to the left of 0, 2 units to the left of 0. So the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2 to the right of 0. The opposite of 4, which is 4 units to the right of 0, would be negative 4, which is 4 units to the left of 0. And finally, the opposite of negative 7, which is 7 units to the left of 0, would be positive 7, which is 7 units to the right of 0. In exercise 3, they ask us to write an integer that represents the opposite of each situation and explain what 0 means in each situation. So 100 feet above sea level would be positive 100, and the opposite would be negative 100. But 0 in this example would be sea level. It is the place or the dividing line of the water. In the second example, 32 degrees below 0 is negative 32, and so the opposite of negative 32 is positive 32. 32 degrees above 0. And 0 in this situation is the division between positive and negative temperatures. And then our final example, a withdrawal of $25 is a negative because it is decreasing your bank account. The opposite of a withdrawal would be positive 25. And 0 in this example would be a 0 balance in the account. Or very possibly, no, let's take that back. The bank account, if we are only talking about a withdrawal of $25 or its opposite, 0 would actually be the balance currently in the account. That is our 0 for this situation, the balance that's currently in the account. And we don't know what that balance is, but it doesn't matter because we're only representing the withdrawal or the opposite of the withdrawal. Example 2. Maria decides to take a walk along Central Avenue to purchase a book at the bookstore. On her way, she passes the Furry Friends pet shop and goes in to look for a new leash for her dog. The Furry Friends pet shop is 7 blocks west of the bookstore. After she leaves the bookstore, she heads east for 7 blocks and stops at Ray's pet shop to see if she can find a new leash at a better price. Which locations, if any, are the furthest from Maria while she is at the bookstore? We need to determine an appropriate scale and model the situation on the number line. All right, so Maria is going to take a walk along Central Avenue to purchase a book. Maria, wherever she is right now, has to be our 0. So we're going to locate our 0 right in the middle here on the number line. Here is our 0. This is where Maria is right now. And then it says on her way, she passes the Furry Friends pet shop and goes in to look for a new leash for her dog. It doesn't tell us yet how far. Next sentence, the Furry Friends pet shop is 7 blocks west of the bookstore. Hopefully we remember our directions, and west is to the left. So we're going to locate the Furry Friends pet shop 7 units to the left or to the west of 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. Then it tells us after she leaves the bookstore, in the middle of our graphing, it's important for us to label what these points represent. Otherwise, we are not going to be able to complete the full exercise. Our red point was the Furry Friends pet shop. And in looking at our situation, on her way to the bookstore, she passes the Furry Friends pet shop. The Furry Friends pet shop is 7 blocks west of the bookstore. This clue tells us 7 blocks west of the bookstore. That tells us that our 0 is actually the bookstore. And once we've labeled our number line, things will be a lot easier to identify. Then it says after she leaves the bookstore, she heads east for 7 blocks. East would be to the right, and stops at Ray's pet shop to see if she can find a new leash at a better price. So we'll need to then put a point on Ray's pet shop and label it as well. Our scale in this example was increasing and or decreasing by 1 each time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And likewise on the negative side. 0 in this situation is our bookstore, which we had to determine before we could locate Ray's pet shop anyway. And since we didn't answer the question yet, which locations, if any, are the furthest from Maria while she is at the bookstore? While she's at the bookstore, both locations are exactly the same distance away. One is to the east, Ray's is to the east, and Furry Friends is to the west, but at the bookstore they are the same distance away from each other. So keep in mind as we continue with exercises 4 and 5, and then you do the problem set on your own, that you have to determine what 0 is in your situation, and then you determine an appropriate interval for your number line, and then you can graph things and make sure you label. Exercise 4. On a number line, locate and label a credit of $15 and a debit for the same amount from a bank account. And then tell what zero represents in this situation. In this number line, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 equal intervals. So if I locate the center, and we'll make this our 0, so I labeled our number line with the positive intervals increasing or decreasing by 5 each time. The credit, which increases the account by 15, is the point in black, and the debit, which decreases the account by 15, because it says the same amount, is in red. 0 in this situation represents the current balance, just like we talked about before. 0 is the current balance in the account, which we don't know, but we also know that the credit will increase it by 15 and the debit would decrease it by 15. Exercise 5. On a number line, locate and label 20 degrees below Celsius, 20 degrees Celsius below 0, and 20 degrees Celsius above 0. And then tell what 0 represents in this situation. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals marked. So we're going to locate 0 in the center. And then since we need to go to 20 degrees, and we only have 2 intervals to get there, 1, 2, each interval must represent 10 degrees. And so we have 20 degrees below 0, which is our blue point, and 20 degrees above 0, which is our red point. And 0 in this situation is the dividing line between negative and positive temperatures. So as you complete the problem set, remember that the 0 and what that represents in your situation is one of the most important things you need to determine first. And then you need equal intervals before you graph.